Here's a guy who thinks words were invented by God.
I'm sitting under some trees. Why do I call them trees? Why aren't they called something else? Why a tree? For some strange reason, that's what all of you call them. All of you at the sound of my voice. Here's what I know. I call them trees, and you call them trees. You're not calling those trees based on what Darwin said.
Where in the Bible is there a definition of what counts as a tree? I agree that we don't define what a tree is based on anything Darwin said, because tree is not really a taxonomical category based on ancestry like a lot of biological categories are. What counts as a tree varies by context. Most broadly, a tree is any plant that can be used as a source of wood. There are examples, however, of biblical taxonomies being replaced by Darwinian ones. The Bible says that bats are a kind of bird. Leviticus 11 gives a list of all of the birds that are not kosher, and it includes bats on that list. Back then, a bird was apparently just any winged vertebrate. Nowadays, we define which animals are birds on the basis of whether they descended from theropods, the common ancestors of all birds. Since bats did not, we no longer consider them birds. Even Christians don't consider bats to be birds anymore.
You're calling them trees because God said after he called light, light,
I strongly doubt that he would have used the English word light because the English language hadn't been invented yet. Also, he never existed.
and darkness, darkness. What you call night and what you call dark, that's what I call night, and that's what I call dark.
So was English the language everyone spoke before the Tower of Babel? If that's the case, it's a pretty big coincidence that it was reinvented so faithfully over the last 1,000 years.
So does everyone else worldwide.
So everyone speaks English?
You turn on a light, you can see better. You say, what do you call it? You call that light. You say, did you learn that from Charles Darwin? No. The earth was, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. The earth was formless and empty. Darkness was over the surface of the deep. There was no light, all dark. Y'all know what dark is, and I know what dark is. We both call it the same thing.
I don't remember learning any of these words from the Bible.
Well, he called the light day. And the darkness he called night. What do you call it? You say, well, I call it daytime, day. You say, what does that mean? You say, it's light.
Does that mean that it's always night inside a windowless room? Is it daytime if someone turns a light on after sundown?
I say, yeah. What do you call darkness? Well, I call that night. Well, where'd you get that from? Why do you call it that? Genesis chapter 1.
What did people call them before Genesis was written? Did nobody have any words for these concepts until Moses allegedly wrote the book of Genesis?
God said, let there be an expanse between the waters. It's a ball of water. And he cuts it in two, and the atmosphere goes this way. You have an atmosphere, a lot of water in it, and the water beneath it. So far, no dirt. Nope. We're just pulling it apart right now. It's a ball of water. Now look.
Where does it say it was a ball of water? You're going to lose all of your flat earther fans.
Some dude, according to the atheists, sat down under a tree, Moses, and he figured this out on his own. Well, every last one of you called it the same thing Moses called it.
I don't think Moses figured this out on his own. I don't believe Moses ever existed. Whoever actually wrote Genesis didn't figure it out either. They made it up. Maybe they took bits and pieces from earlier creation myths, but maybe his story was completely original. Either way, that's not how the earth formed.
But you don't believe in it. Well, why are you calling it all these things? The same thing Genesis called it, the Genesis writer called it, if you don't believe it.
When Murray Gell-Mann proposed that quarks exist, he got the name for them from the novel Finnegan's Wake. Everyone calls them that now, so Finnegan's Wake must have been a true story, right? Why does everyone call them quarks if they don't believe that the events depicted in Finnegan's Wake really happened?
Let the water under the sky. Now we got water underneath it because he hasn't done anything with that yet. Watch. Be gathered to one place and let dry ground appear. And it was so, and he called the dry ground, are y'all ready for this? Land. Well, what do y'all call it? Atheist or believer, what do you call the dirt?
Earth.
We call that land. God saw it was good. And now we get to the trees. God said, let the land, you call it land and I call it land, produce vegetation, put trees on the land that bear fruit, apples, oranges, peaches, oak trees, acorns, fruit coming out of fruit. What do you call it?
I guarantee that the Bible doesn't talk about oranges. They are a relatively recent hybrid that was exclusive to China and the regions immediately near it until several hundred years after the book of Genesis was written.
What do you call peaches? You say, well, I'll call that fruit. That's what Moses called it in the Genesis account, by the way.
The Bible never mentions peaches either, and for the same reason.
And it was so, according to the various kinds, a lot of different kinds. Old Moses, sitting under a tree, just dreamed all this up.
I don't think he needed to dream up the idea that fruits exist and that there are different kinds of fruit.
You talk about a dreamer. He finally gets to us, the first living things he created. You get over to the verse 20. Uh-oh.
Also, don't you hunt ducks? Is there birdshot in that AR-15?
Got some more coming. What's next, Lord? Let the water, a lot of it, teem with living creatures. It does. Let birds fly above the earth. Wait a minute. Where'd we get this name, bird?
It comes from the Old English brid, and also the Bible defines it in such a way that includes bats. We don't use the word that way anymore.
What do you call them? These things that go through the air, ducks. You say, well, that'd be a bird. A cardinal, beautiful thing. You say, I call that a bird. You say, what do you call a hawk that flies by? You say, I call that a bird. What do you call that buzzard? I call that a bird.
What do you call a bat? Do you still call a bat a bird?
God said, let the water teem with living creatures and let birds fly above the earth. They do. And across the expanse of the sky. They do. Be fruitful and increase in number and fill the water in the seas and let the birds increase on the earth. And he gets over a little further and he says, listen, I made all that for food for you, which it is. Chickens, that'd be a bird. You say, you eat him? Yeah, we eat him. Do atheists eat chickens? You say, yeah, they eat them. What do they call them? Birds. I'm like, that's what God called them. So, we're going way back to who named the trees.
The word tree can be traced back to Proto-Indo-European, which was a language spoken by the people in and around the Caucasus at least 5,000 years ago, so I guess they gave trees that name.
Because I'm sitting on them. They are majestic. Pulling millions of gallons of water from the dirt. And it makes the bulk of them, the wood and the leaves and the fruit, pulling all that like a giant, it's like a giant pump. It's just pulling that water. It's running throughout the tree. It's November right now. All the water is coming out of them. The water is coming out of them. You say, what happens when they all start saying, put the water back in the ground? The water goes back in the ground.
Do you hear them say this? Do the trees talk to you, Phil?
You'll see little streams flowing up in some of these hills that weren't flowing before then. All that water in the ground from the trees, and the little creek starts flowing. You're like, where's that water coming from? A lot of it came out of these trees. As soon as the water gets out of them, they're dormant. Their leaves begin to turn. They don't have that water anymore. So you get the beautiful colors of the tree leaves, and we all drive by and look at them and we say, that is beautiful. The reason I'm sitting here, I come down here all the time. You say, what are you doing? Seeing the water come out of them and seeing the leaves turn. It's pretty cool.
What does this have to do with atheists now?
Springtime, won't be a leaf on them here. 2 months, that'll be no leaves anywhere. They'll all be on the ground. Good mulch for the dirt. Great thing for it, and they rot, the leaves do, and the ground is rich. That helps your vegetation underneath it. It's all a system, all a system. The Almighty made it all. You say that just happened to turn out that way?
That's what Darwin says. He proposes no mechanisms at all. The origin of species is one sentence long. It just happened to turn out that way.
I just read you the Genesis account, and you're calling all these things the same thing God called them through Moses. It's God saying you can run, but you can't hide.
So nobody had any words for any of these things before Moses was born?
You know there's a power behind all this.
Yeah, it's energy expended over time. That's the definition of power.
I mean, I named them, and you're using the names I called them, yet you say I'm not here to give you the names. Y'all gonna keep fooling around, and I'm gonna make a believer out of you.
When's that going to happen?
It'd be the greatest thing to happen to you. Look, if I'm right, you're going to be living in immortality and saying, boy, I'll tell you one thing, I'm glad I paid attention to that old gray-haired guy, that old gray-beard. He said, boy, I got to thinking about that. I said, well, why don't I just put my faith in the God who did this?
How do I do that? I don't know how to snap my fingers and just will myself to believe in something I don't naturally find convincing.
I've never seen him, and neither has the gray-beard. I've never seen God. Neither have you. No one has ever seen God. But you can tell that God is by what he's made.
God is an acorn?
I'm just giving you some things he made, and you look at it and you say, I mean, it couldn't have come from nothing.
Of course not. There never was nothing.
And right now they're fixed to be beautiful in about 2 weeks. You're like, the beauty of it all. How could we even appreciate the beauty of it all if salt water made us?
Who says that salt water made us? I've never heard that one before. Also, do you think that appreciating beauty is some kind of mystical act that can only be carried out by beings forged by a timeless, spaceless, disembodied mind? Why would that be the case?
You would never appreciate beauty if salt water made you.
What if I'm made up of lots of other chemicals too?
No. Nope. Sunrises, sunsets.
Never a miscommunication? You can't explain that?
Autumn leaves. A human can appreciate the beauty. When you say there's no God, you turn into a creature of instinct, and then all you worry about is how much sex you can get, and can I feel good tomorrow? Can I get some kind of pharmaceuticals in me? Do I feel good?
Not Phil, though. He gets his kicks above the waistline, sunshine.
Sex, I feel good. Gotta have it. I'm gonna do it with anybody and everybody I'm going for it. I'm like, you ought to put your faith in God.
Is that what Phil would be like if he didn't put his faith in God?
I'm trying to get you to appreciate it. Appreciate him, the one who made it, and the one who made you.
Do you lose interest in sex when you do that? Because that's not exactly a selling point. To everyone who helps me out on Patreon, you're a big help. Thanks so much.